Give it up for the band. That'd be great all day. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm here to talk about VR, and something you will have seen a lot around here today. But I want to start by telling you an experience I had when I was a kid. And it was an experience that was so powerful that it stayed with me to this day. I was watching a film. I was 6 years old. And one of the very first films I ever sat through, God knows why my mum and dad chose this one, but it made me cry. And, I couldn't understand why a film about a boy I'd never met from Barnsley, a place I'd never been, and his pet kestrel could have that kind of an effect on me. What made me so engrossed in it, what picked me up from where I was and transported me to feel like I understood these characters. Now, I won't spoil it for those of you who haven't seen it, but when the ending came, it completely floored me. And 30 years have passed now since I've last watched this, and I actually haven't seen it again, but I can hear the music and I can see these clips, and it can transport me back there in a second. Amazingly powerful stuff.
Spiel interview? Well, get off then, lad. And God help your future employer.
Perfect film for a 6-year-old, right? And it stayed with me because it changed the way I felt. It got me emotionally, and it changed the way I felt about a film and a character. And, it's only just occurred to me recently, but my entire career has been about creating stories that change the way people feel, that change how I feel. At first I worked in the movie business, and that was all we tried to do. Worked on some wonderful feature films, some more successful than others, to try and change the way people felt. Wherever we were doing it, we were trying to create incredible, compelling content. Then I traveled the world as a journalist, trying to tell stories that made people change the way they felt. And at the World Cup in Brazil, sport is the perfect example. When you involve people, when fans get involved in something, when they become a part of it, you can change the way they feel and create moments that they never forget, that live with them forever. And that led me to virtual reality. And VR isn't like any other medium I've ever worked in. But having been on the path that I have, I can say it's without question the single most exciting storytelling medium I've ever seen. Now, stories are 34,000 years old, so that's a big statement, I know. But when I put on a headset for the first time, it was a revelation. It gave me that same feeling that I felt when I was a 6-year-old boy watching Kess. It was so powerful, it moved me. And storytelling's a massive part of VR. The very first stories were cave paintings, believe it or not. Cavemen using pigment to sketch out images of bison and horses. Animals rendered in amazing detail. The hunt, the chase, the kill. And these paintings showed interaction between man and beast. A story, the very first of its kind. That is the very first photograph that was ever taken, which was by a Frenchman in 1827. And in 1877, we got the first moving pictures, which was a guy called Edward Muybridge, who used a series of cameras to study the motion of a horse. And then this was the next big jump forward, the Lumiere brothers, about 20 years later, and it was a revelation. To us, just a train pulling into a station. So basic. But at the time, it would send people scurrying from cinemas because they thought the train was coming straight through into the cinema, crashing into the seats. It had people running. Now, fast forward 120 years, and VR is doing something similar. Apologies to my mother-in-law, believe it or not, who doesn't know I'm using this clip. Enough of that. So where are we now? Where is VR in its development? Well, it's back where the Lumiere brothers were. We're that early on in the development of this technology. Talking's great, but seeing is believing. VR is an experiential medium, as you can see. So I'm going to try and show you a demo of some of the work we've done over the last year. And the difficulty here is we don't have you all in headsets, so I'm going to have to show you something on a screen. Think of it as a map rather than a globe, if you like. Let's have a look. Now, I'd invite you all to come to our booth outside and actually see that for real, because you know, you won't be watching it on a screen. The lion will be over here, the elephant will be over here. It will feel like you're there with those incredible backdrops. You know, VR is different to what we watch on a screen. It's something where we don't have to suspend our disbelief in the same way we do when we go to a cinema, when we have to trick our mind into convincing what we're seeing is real. VR tricks your brain in a much more advanced way, as you saw with my mother-in-law. The content is convincing enough to automatically have you suspend your disbelief. That's why people are taking off their headsets to bring themselves back to the real world and check it's still there. But what does all this mean for you guys? Why is VR changing your world? Well, what I want to talk about is a few things we've learned about the medium over the last year. At Laduma, we've created experiences with the biggest names in sport, helped them reach new fans in new ways. Sports teams particularly are seeing the potential of selling the unique atmosphere that they create in their stadiums, bottling it up, transporting it around the world to fans who could never otherwise get to these wonderful stadiums, you know, the Bernabeu, Anfield, Old Trafford, Dortmund, and incredible atmospheres that people maybe can't travel to from wherever they support their teams. We've also worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment. Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi, we did a concert with those guys. And, you know, you might have front row tickets to one of their concerts, but you can't go on the stage with them while they're performing. And so, you know, that kind of access is where VR can take you. It can make you have memorable experiences in a way that perhaps you haven't considered. Or if you went to a concert and you loved it, and it was an amazing day for you and the sun shone, and you want to go back there and watch it in a different way, and then VR could do that. Music is a really interesting place to be with virtual reality. We've begun to see that having a direct path to your emotions and your senses is a very powerful tool, and something that major brands are beginning to tap into. Influencing people through traditional medium, as we've heard, has never been harder. We fast forward TV commercials, we mute them, and our attention spans have never been lower, which doesn't bode well for this talk. In the year 2000, the average attention span was 12 seconds for an adult, 12 seconds of coherent thought before our mind moves on to something else. This is what Microsoft had to say about it. But since the smartphone boom, that has dropped to 8 seconds, which means this guy beats us. But if you're a brand, VR does help you claw that back a bit, because when you're in a headset, we've got you. You know, there's no escape. You can't check your social media. You can't watch cat videos on YouTube. So if organizations understand how to use that, they can rediscover the power to influence people almost immediately. And that brings me around to the public. Are they ready for VR? It's great to have brilliant content, but it's pointless if no one's going to watch it. So the question will be, how long will it be until we see people wearing these things in the street? How long will it be until they're lining up in London waiting to see something? Well, sooner than you might think, actually. This was last month in Regent Street, the NFL street party. We were invited to show off some of our content there, and you could see in the background the line of people waiting to put on a headset. They didn't know what they were waiting to see. There was no pre-publicity, no fanfare. They just saw a headset and wanted to stand in line to watch it. And it was great kind of unscripted validation for us that the public are massively intrigued by what VR can do. They'll wait in line. They'll stand there. And this is where I think we just begin to scratch the surface of the true power of virtual reality. It not only connects humans to other humans, but connects them to places, to brands, to products. It can educate, entertain, thrill, scare, as we saw. And VR makes us feel closer, like we're part of something. It's an empathy machine. And if you think through it, there isn't an industry that VR isn't already disrupting or can't disrupt. Take education, for example. When you and I learned about ancient Egypt in school, we did it in a textbook. And our teacher told us how amazing these pyramids were and what an amazing modern marvel it was to still have these in our world. But kids in the near future, my kids, your kids, will put on a VR headset and they'll be able to see it for themselves. And because they can see it for themselves, because they're there, they'll learn in a much more effective way than we ever did when we were zoning out from our teacher, maybe after 12 seconds, right? Let's pick another industry, travel and tourism. TripAdvisor has been a huge success because people want to know what they're going to get when they pay money for their holiday. They want to know what the hotel's going to be like. They want to know what the pool's like, the beach. VR can solve that in 2 seconds. Television and the movie business, already creating in-house teams now. Most of the studios are on their way to doing that because they want to add value to the content they're creating. And done right, the possibilities are endless. Being able to involve and interact with our audiences in a much more meaningful way, even to market your main events in a way that really engages with people, is the future of entertainment. Now, before I finish up, I want to address the question that will be on the minds of some of you. Is VR a fad? Is it going to be like 3D TV or Google Glass? I'm not here to twist your arm. That's not my job. All I can tell you is why we believe VR is the key medium for content in the future. 3 main reasons. The experience and the content itself, which you need to see for yourself. When done properly, it's a game changer. Number 2, it's delivered on your phone, generally, not a £3,000 3D television, which helps. And number 3, look at the players at the table. Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Sky, YouTube, Sony, Samsung, and watch this space, Apple. And it takes a brave person to go against those organizations who, after all, shape our consumption habits, decide how and when we watch content. Recent predictions have put the VR market at 162 billion in 2020. It's a little over 3 years from now. And Goldman Sachs have even gone as far to say it will outstrip the TV market by 2025. That said, it's important for you guys to make up your own mind about this. And if you decide VR moves you just as Kess moved me all those years ago, then great. I have 2 children of my own now, 2 boys. And the eldest is 4, and he already talks to me about Wi-Fi and app stores and YouTube. And I think it's much harder to give him that kind of an experience these days. There's so much more competition for his attention. But I want to show you one more clip. This is Rory, my eldest. The first time he put on a VR headset, and he's in his Stormtrooper pajamas, so forgive me.
I will fly tomorrow. Actually from Lille, rather than Brussels, but I don't have any news about that, check my email.
Yeah, so that would be a fairly straightforward journey now, a much more complicated one. How do you feel about flying after this?
Well, I think I'm kind of I'm optimistic, I'm pessimistic, so the probability there is another bomb attack in a plane is very...
Which bit are you looking at?
Kids are much more adventurous in the way they watch VR, where they're not used to watching it on a screen like we did. They look everywhere. They don't care. Maybe, just maybe, this was my boy having the same revelatory experience in his childhood that I had in mine. Only in some ways I think his surpasses mine. There he goes. This experience gave him complete joy and happiness. He was checking it, the world is still there. And I know because virtual reality made him feel like this, it made him feel something, like I felt all those years ago, that he'll remember this forever. He'll never forget it. And I hope virtual reality can make you guys feel the same way. Thank you very much.